everyone, and welcome to LA Rams Central. I'm Anthony, and go. There you go. All right. We'll get better at that as we go along. Big news today. This show, guys, if you want it under an hour, watch it twice. The first half and then the second, because it's not going to be under an hour. A lot of stuff going on. In particular, there were a lot of trades. There were a lot of no trades. There was a WTF moment with a reinstatement, in my opinion. You've got some issues right now that you're trying to resolve as far as making sure that the character of your league is not in question, and yet it's in question. So we'll talk about that. I think there's a good no trade that happened. Eric thinks I'm reaching, and he will call my crap out on that, but we will get to that later. So without further ado, Eric, which trade would you like to start with? Because there's a lot.
In a way, I think they're all big in their own capacity. But I think we're going to start with the two NFC West trades because, our focus is on the Rams. So, of course, we should start with the Rams' opponents. So let's backtrack a little bit. The Rams made a big trade right before the season started. Okay, Sammy Watkins was a big get for the Rams. To me, the first trade I want to go with, not only does it fill a need, but I think it's something that the team had to do. Kind of like, hey, you know what, we need to keep up with the Rams. They're not going away. And that is, that was basically like 1 or 2 days right after the game on Sunday. But the Seahawks and Texans pulled off a trade. And the Seahawks acquired left tackle Dwayne Brown, who basically held out for the first half of the season. I believe it was over contract. But he came in, he played solid, and now the Seahawks get a solid left tackle.
Yeah, I don't want to talk. I didn't want to.
Jeremy Lin, the quarterback, was in the trade back, but he failed his physical. So it's 2 draft picks now going back to Houston.
Yeah. I didn't want to start with this one because this is the one that pissed me off. I will tell you guys right now, I, without a shadow of a doubt, despite the game against Houston, fully believe that the Seattle Seahawks are going to fall apart in the second half because of the offensive line. We know what one left tackle can do for a football team in LA. Look at Whitworth and what the Rams have done. What this trade effectively did is it kept Seattle in not only the playoff picture, but guaranteed a playoff spot. 2 teams are coming out of the NFC West, more than likely, or it's going to be a damn shame if someone doesn't, because somebody's going to be 10-6 and 11-5 and missing out. This trade pissed me off because it made sure that Seattle not only stayed relevant, but became, I hate to say it, guys, and you're going to disagree with me out there, but the favorite to win the NFC West. This puts the Rams in a very vicarious situation where it looks like it's going to be wild card or bust, because they're not only going to have to beat Seattle in Seattle with now a strengthened offensive line, but Seattle's schedule isn't exactly a challenge going the rest of the way through the season, with 2 games against the Cardinals and 2 games against the 49ers, or 1 game against the 49ers. So I look at this and I'm like, God dang it. So we're already a half a game back, and that essentially could be a full game back if we have the same record, or 2 games back if we're a game behind them. So it was a good move by Seattle. I hate it.
All right, guys. Rams family, I'm going to read you something that Anthony sent me. He sent me a text after it happened. You guys ready for this? I think Seahawks just may have won the division.
Yeah.
I started laughing when I read that. I'm like, okay, well, it's going to be a dogfight. I mean, plain and simple, it's going to be a dogfight. The Rams are no stranger to winning up in Seattle. We all know that. Mm-hmm. And, yeah, it's not going to be easy for the Rams to win the division.
And it was going to be. Until that move, it was going to be a cakewalk. And then, I'll let you finish up with this, and then I'll start with the other trade in the NFC West. Go ahead.
Well, Brown played pretty well in what essentially amounted to a shootout in Seattle. It was like both teams forgot how to play defense when they're both known for pretty good having defense. And, he shook off the rust. The Texans couldn't have that game. And we'll get to it, but Brown's a big upgrade. He's 32 years old. He's got a contract that goes to next year, and so the Seahawks are looking to find a way to extend him. They got a lot of guys who they need to pay, and a lot of them are on defense. And just to name a couple guys, Earl Thomas is one, Richard Sherman is one, and like I said, there are a few others. I think Sherman's time after the season comes to an end with Seattle in order for the Seahawks to focus on their offensive line. They say, you know what, we need to somehow give some money to Brown here, extend him, or sign him after your deal is up. And that means freeing up money elsewhere. That means not signing somebody from their defense. So, changing the guard maybe depends on how they draft, but they got to protect Russell Wilson. That's the biggest asset right there. And I think that as long as they keep Thomas around, that defense is still going to be pretty nasty up there.
Yeah. Yeah. They're old. They're older, but they're getting better. The 49ers, in my opinion, just made the NFC West the best division in football for the next decade. Because the Rams and 49er rivalry is going to be in full throat. I don't know what New England was thinking when they had an opportunity to trade Jimmy Garoppolo and get a first-round pick, and actually even heard potentially 2 first-round picks, one last year and one in this upcoming draft. 2 second-round picks, or 3 second-round picks. The Browns are offering a 1 this year, prior draft that just happened, both their number 2s, or a number 2 this year and a number 2 next year. That's what it was. And they potentially were willing to send a 1 next year. That was the counteroffer that they gave New England, and the Patriots refused it, keeping Jimmy Garoppolo, and then end up trading him at the deadline for a second-round pick from the Niners.
Which, it's going to be like 33rd pick overall, or 34th pick overall. So it's, 1 or 2 away from the first round.
See, this is where me and you are going to disagree.
Don't be surprised that the Patriots trade out of that pick to garner more picks, find guys who you never thought would be starters for New England.
I'm not going to allow this to happen. Because I hear this crap from the media. When you have an opportunity to get a bounty of picks for a guy, and you later trade him for an obscure second-round pick from a team, and I don't care how bad that team is, you screwed up. And it's not like New England gets a free pass on this. Because Belichick's not going to be around when Brady retires. And Brady's not going to be around for the next 20 years. You had an opportunity to solidify the future in New England, and instead, you played games, and you ended up making, in my opinion, the dumbest trade of the night. Now, it's great for San Francisco. They get themselves a franchise quarterback. They don't have to worry about now drafting a quarterback, and we disagreed on this, okay? He's not a rental player. He's not somebody they're going to kick the tires on over a course of 7 games and determine whether or not this guy is the guy or not, or 6 games, however many it ends up being. He is going to be their starting quarterback. They're banking on it. They're going to see how he does, and if he does poorly, then they're able to give him less money. If he does good, then they're going to have to give him more money. But ideally, he'll struggle, so they can give him a relatively light contract, lock him up for 3 years, and turn their focus in the draft in the first round to a running back, to a wide receiver, to a defensive player. It's open season for them to decide because they didn't have to give up a 1. This was a brilliant move by San Francisco, and for me, it's a WTF moment for New England. What were you thinking? You got 1 when you could have had 4 for the same guy. It blows my mind.
I think they were just looking for insurance in case something happened to Brady early on in the season, and they took advantage of what they thought might have been a quiet deadline. And who knew that there was going to be like 700 trades on deadline day?
So when Tom Brady breaks his knee,
I get what you're saying as far as if he does well, they give him the money. If he struggles, he's going to not command as much. It's hard to say. He's most likely not going to play and start until week 12. So he's got 2 weeks in the bye week to learn the offense.
Well,
And
just so you know, Eric.
The rumored deal was that Brian Hoyer was going to be included in the deal, but because of the money didn't make sense coming to the Patriots way, so the 49ers ended up releasing him, and Hoyer signed a 3-year deal with New England. So now he's the second quarterback in the Patriots organization. But Garoppolo is going to struggle, okay? I'm not going to make no ifs, ands, or buts about that. He will struggle this season. And he's got a short window to be like, hey, I'm the guy. Well, San Francisco's probably already going to say, all right, well, we didn't trade you for no reason for you to hit the open market. So, they could franchise tag him if they can't come to a deal. But the going rate for a franchise quarterback, if he can stag, is $23 million.
Right.
Now, the 49ers have that money to spend, okay? Don't get me wrong, they got almost $100 million to spend. So they can franchise tag him and say, hey, we're going to work out a deal by the July 15th deadline.
Right.
Which, okay, great. Let's see it happen. Because if that turns into another Kirk Cousins fiasco just on the West Coast, oh man, they're doing something wrong. But I fully expect him to get signed. It's just gonna take him a couple of years for them to build up to what they want to be, because they still need to get that running back and wide receiver. And you know as well as I have, I've been already barking on the 49ers that they're gonna draft Saquon Barkley, the running back out of Penn State. Kid is dynamic. If they end up making Garoppolo their guy, which this has the makings of them doing that, then they can go fill holes other places. Because Carlos Hyde won't be in the team after the season.
No,
so
he won't.
Say, okay, Barkley, come on in, and then they're just going to fill holes the other way. Their defense is starting to get there with Thomas and Foster that they drafted in the first round this past draft. So, the 49ers are going to be making some noise. Now, I think it'll be another couple of years before it happens, but they're on their way. And John Lynch is doing a great job so far as general manager of the Niners. I think the Bears traded another draft pick for Trubisky traded at the deadline for him. So, he knows what he's doing. He's doing a good job so far, and we'll see how it all plays out for the 49ers.
Well, I'm going to tell you right now. I really believe this. He's going to win 4 games this year. Mark my words. He will lead that team to a 4-12 record before the year is over. Because I think Garoppolo is that accurate and that good. He's going to struggle, but he's going to be capable of those games that the 49ers lost in the waning seconds because the quarterback didn't know how to throw the ball. Those are going to be games they win down the stretch. I'm telling you, mark my words, they will win 4 games this year.
Okay. Who are they going to beat? They got the Cardinals at home.
Right. There's one.
They got the Giants at home.
There's 2.
Versus the Seahawks.
Nope.
At the Bears.
Yep.
No. Not the way that 49er defense is. Or that 49er team is. At the Texans.
Nope.
Versus the Titans.
Nope.
Versus the Jaguars.
Nope.
Definitely W versus the Rams.
No, forget you.
Kidding. They're at the Rams at the week 17. So I can see 2, maybe 3, but 4. I mean, 4 is a stretch, but if the ball bounces the right way, maybe.
Did I have 4? Did I have 4, or did I only have 3?
You said 4, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was 2 or 3.
Okay. Well, we'll have to wait and see. But either way, the NFC West just became the best division in football, and I believe that. All right. What you got, buddy? What's the next one?
Well, the Buffalo Bills traded 2 draft picks in 2018 to the Carolina Panthers for Kelvin Benjamin, wide receiver.
What a move.
What did you think of this trade when you heard it?
Dude, I thought it was great. You've been saying that they needed to turn around and get themselves a wide receiver. They didn't just get themselves a wide receiver. They got themselves Sammy Watkins on steroids, probably literally too, but I digress. In Kelvin Benjamin.
Well, you know what's funny is that Buffalo's head coach and GM came from Carolina. You know, Carolina earlier in the season or after the end of last season, they exercised the fifth-year option on Benjamin's deal. Now, we all know Benjamin came off the torn ACL back in 2015, and there's been rumblings that, you know, Carolina wasn't too keen on his knee. Now, whether that's saying like he's had problems or whatnot, you know, everybody goes through problems with a surgically repaired knee coming off a torn ACL, and you know, maybe they just didn't think it was sound enough. I don't know what they were thinking in Carolina, but essentially Carolina. Okay, now you got two draft picks. That's great, though. But Greg Olsen is still on IR, designated to return. Your number one wide receiver is Devin Funchess. Your starting tight end is Ed Dixon. And I read that, you know, Carolina did this trade so they could open up holes for Christian McCaffrey.
Yep.
Well, that's great and all, but, you know, Christian McCaffrey really hasn't been lights out yet.
Here's why. I'm going to interrupt you here. Here's why. Fantasy owners of Christian McCaffrey, and he should have taken my trade, by the way, their stock just went up. Because when it came down to third down, Christian McCaffrey could have been doing jumping jacks with no one around him within 75 yards. And Cam Newton would throw to Kelvin Benjamin. It reminds me of Moneyball. You can't start Penny at first base because I just traded him. Well, Cam, you can't throw to Benjamin on third down despite the coverage anymore because I just traded him. This is going to open up more opportunities for McCaffrey to show what he can actually do. Because his stats should look a lot better than they do. And I know, because he's on my fantasy team, so I followed some of the Carolina games this year. And I remember going, Jesus, he's wide open by the first down sticks. What are you throwing into triple coverage of Kelvin Benjamin for? I get thrown to, you know, Olsen over, you know, deep in the seam, big play and all. But my God, you have an obvious first down. The New Orleans game is the best example of that. Go back and watch the Saints game. You will be blown away how many times McCaffrey was wide open and Newton didn't even look at him. So I do think it's going to open up opportunities, but it does handicap the Panthers because you don't have, with Olsen out, you have two weapons. 2.5 if you want to count Cam Newton. So
yeah, I mean, are they going to run the ball 90% of the time? I mean, Cam's going to get freaking killed out there if he keeps the ball. Stewart's on his last leg, so
yeah,
you know they have to find a way to move the ball down the field because Ed Dixon's not going to have 175 yards receiving every game like he had. Like a game or two after Olsen went out where he just tore up the Lions.
Yeah, he's
so. You know, they have to find a way to come out and, you know, somehow play solid football. Because I'll tell you, you know, they're playing the Falcons this week. And, you know, the Falcons haven't been playing up to par lately. But it's still no cakewalk in the division game. I mean, if the Falcons get up big sometime in that game, you know, are the Panthers going to be able to come back? You know, I know it's in Carolina, but you know,
they lost to New Orleans at home.
This will be an interesting next 2 or 3 weeks for Carolina to see what they're made of without having Benjamin on the field.
Well, I don't want to take it away from Buffalo. Buffalo may have just won the division. They already look good, and you know they traded Sammy Watkins and they got themselves something potentially better and more diverse. So, and certainly a red zone threat. Besides Clay, they now have Benjamin, which will open up Clay and will open up McCoy. I mean, this is just a huge move by the Buffalo Bills, and I don't want to take credit away from Buffalo at all. Is there another trade, or was that pretty much the big? I know there were three big ones, but is there another?
Yeah, I want to touch on one thing. What Buffalo really needs to do is find and possibly draft a healthy wide receiver. They had Watkins with his foot problems, which, not on wood, they haven't. Those foot problems have not come up this year for the Rams.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's great, that he's been able to stay healthy. Benjamin had his torn ACL 2 years ago, so it'd be nice for Buffalo to actually have somebody who is healthy. But really, is anybody healthy? That's the question. But how about not coming off a serious injury?
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be key for them. The other trade that, didn't happen was a trade between the Bengals and Browns that would have sent E.J. McCarron, the backup quarterback of the Bengals of Andy Dalton, to Cleveland for a draft pick. Now, apparently this trade was agreed to at 3:55 Eastern Time, 5 minutes before the deadline. Rumors are circulating out there that the Browns are too busy celebrating to file the paperwork and send it into the league office.
Oh, Jesus.
I'm not sure how true that is. I've also heard reports that, Hugh Jackson really wanted McCarron, but the front office may have nixed it. So if the second part of that is true, then there's definitely disconnect between the coaching staff and the front office. I mean, it just seems like that's always like the Browns anyways. But this actually turns over another rock. Like, Hugh Jackson's in the second year. He's 1-23. I'm not so sure he's safe after the season.
No, he's not. He's gone.
But A.J. McCarron must be counting his lucky stars because he said, okay, I don't go to the Browns. I can stay here in Cincinnati, where in case if anything happens to Dalton, I can throw to A.J. Green. I don't know who I'm throwing to in Cleveland. So for this to happen, and I know the Bengals, I think the Bengals are looking more at this as, hey, AJ, you're going to be able to start. Because, he's already better than Kaiser, Kessler, and Hogan, okay? They're like, you're going to have the opportunity to start, and, we can get a draft pick in return. So when it didn't go through, the Bengals, they didn't have to say, oh, we're sorry, we put you on the trade block and we'll trade you. They're like, you know what? Now that this has happened, we're glad that you're here. You're a heck of a backup quarterback. There's going to be a starter one day, whether it's here or somewhere else, because I wouldn't be surprised if they still. Well, he's a restricted free agent after the season. So for him to not get traded, and the Browns were going to give up 2 draft picks for a soon-to-be restricted free agent quarterback, well, I'm not so sure how smart the Browns front office is in that case either. Hey, just wait so you can just go sign him. It doesn't cost you anything except money.
Right.
I really don't know what to make of the situation other than some heads are going to roll in Cleveland.
Well, I think one of the heads that needs to roll is the Cleveland Browns ownership. They've got to sell. This is what happens when non-football people own teams. You want to know what happens when a fan owns a team? Look at New England. You want to know what happens when a football person owns a team? Look at Dallas. Here's another team that's owned by fans, the Green Bay Packers. Like, it's not hard. All you have to do is know what you're doing. And I would think if you were an owner, you're the CEO of a corporation, an organization, you might want to do some homework. The Browns they're a dumpster fire. And that ownership needs to sell. That GM needs to be fired. Hugh Jackson should have been fired last year. I'm sorry, but he should have been. And you go out and you hire this pencil neck dink as a GM who wants to use cybermetrics from baseball to run a football organization. It sounds like a clip from Moneyball, right?
Right, yeah. I don't know why you would hire somebody from a baseball front office and sabermetrics, like you said, to do that, to run football operations, and bring that type of analytics into the football spread, because it two different sports doesn't make sense. You need football guys to run that organization, and to run any organization in football, really. The problem is, it's like, okay, I know there's going to be shooters lined up to buy the Browns, but how do you know it's not going to be a turnstile with coaches and front office people again, like it has been since they came back in '99?
Because you make sure the person buying the team is a football person. Eric, if me and you, like if you were the owner and I was the GM, or somebody like us was owner and you were GM and I was head coach, we'd have the Browns in the Super Bowl in 4 years. Minimum. Maybe earlier. Like, it's not hard to turn a team around when you know what pieces to look for and you have a system that works and it fits and it runs. So, in a league that has parity, you can always look at the Browns to be first on the clock in next year's draft. And that's a problem. There's nothing worse than having a league full of parity, quote unquote, or at least where you have your elite six and then the rest of the league and then your bottom three. And it seems like the Browns are perennially in the bottom three. It was terrible. And to go from a no trade that should have been a trade, I'd like to go to a no trade that didn't happen. I'm celebrating.
Before you do that, the Browns actually contacted the front office and basically asked to be reconsidered for that trade. And because it was a couple minutes late, the league office said, no, we're not reconsidering. So they stuck to their hard deadline. I mean, you always hear, Major League Baseball trade deadline, trades coming through that have been agreed to, but aren't announced until half an hour and a half later. Football's pretty hard stance on that. Say if it's not agreed to and all the paperwork's not in by deadline time, it's a no-go.
Yeah. It's crazy. Listen, I want to talk about a no trade that happened that is good news. I was worried the Rams may trade Sammy Watkins for another player or another piece, not because Sammy Watkins was complaining, not because Sammy Watkins was a problem on the team, but because they kind of don't need him. And I know you're going to counter this, and that's fine. I don't mean they don't look. He's a luxury that they have, but it was a piece they could have traded for another piece. I don't know what that other piece is. They're 5-2. They're doing pretty good. They might like their team. I get that. I'm not even saying trade him for a pick, but maybe trade him for another player that's out there. But what player would you trade him for? I'm actually glad the Rams didn't trade Sammy Watkins because I was worried that he might have been, of anybody on the Rams team that they could have let go, he was definitely one of them. But you're saying that this is not only a non-issue, but fake news, right?
Not even fake news. I think it's a non-issue. I think you're reaching. I think that, you sounds like you wanted some Rams news during the bye week, leading up to the trade deadline. And you're like, okay, well, yes, I'm going to pick Sammy Watkins because he really hasn't shown up this year. Listen, they didn't trade Watkins at the beginning of the season to trade him by the deadline.
Right.
Okay. Watkins is opening holes for Todd Gurley. You're not seeing it. Okay. Watkins isn't putting up the numbers, but he's taking one of the best opponent's corners and putting it on Watkins. Thus leaving Woods a little bit more open one-on-one capabilities, and he's having a resurgent year. Okay. So Watkins may not be putting up numbers, but it's the X factors that don't show up in the box score, which means Gurley's hitting more holes. His numbers are impressive. He's had a bounce back year. I would say, Gurley could easily be a comeback player of the year along with MVP during the season, and just because of what he was unable to do last year. So I didn't hear any Rams news as far as that they were looking to trade or, people were calling them to trade. I've heard a lot of other teams, calling and asking around for things, but the Rams weren't one of them. They were kind of quiet. I think they're like, hey, we're going to listen, but we're not really going to do anything.
Right.
I just think that with the season that they're having, who knows if the second half of Watkins doesn't come and light it up. Because, what would happen if, say, you traded into Cleveland, okay, and Watkins all of a sudden in 6 or 7 games has, 950 yards receiving.
Yeah. No, you're right.
7 touchdowns, because that's who they forced the ball to.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're stuck with, a draft pick that you don't know what you're going to get out of it when you draft him. Okay?
Well,
so, and that's of course, I'm just playing hypothetical there. But,
sure.
They got Sammy Watkins for a reason. And I fully expect the Rams to actually sign him to an extension and not let him get to the free agent market. I think Watkins' time is coming, and it's just going to take a little bit more patience on Rams fans' parts to fully accept that Watkins' breakout is coming. And it may not be, the next couple of weeks. It may not be until the end of the season, possibly playoffs. It might not be until next season. When he's fully integrated in the offense. See, we've had this type of conversation before, Anthony.
Mm-hmm.
And I was kind of like having it hard. Like, Terrell Pryor was a 1,000-yard receiver in Cleveland with 6 different quarterbacks. Yet him and Cousins can't get on the same page. And you're like, dude, it takes a year for that to happen. I'm like, well, 6 quarterbacks in Cleveland.
Right.
And they're like, it takes a year for that to happen. So, is Pryor going to break out next year? Same thing for Watkins. Watkins going to break out at the end of the season for next year. If they're good to him and Sammy's good to them and everybody's on the same page, the Watkins' return on investment will pay off.
Well, here's the good news. Are you ready? According to Todd Gurley, him, Watkins, and Higbee and Goff were working a lot during the off time in the bye week. And Goff and Watkins were working specifically on 50-50 balls and the deep ball.
Well, there you go.
So, and I just love it because every time I hear about Gurley working, he's always working with Jared Goff and Tyler Higbee. Now, you can throw in Sammy Watkins, it looks like. And I wouldn't be surprised, they didn't mention, but I wouldn't be surprised if Cooper Kupp and Goff kind of worked on their own a little bit too. Remember, I said my second half guys to look out for the Rams was going to be Sammy Watkins and Jared Goff. So I do expect Watkins to go off in the second half. It may not be the next 2 weeks because you've got the Giants who have pretty good corners and the Houston Texans who have a pretty good defense, although they didn't show it this past week. But after that, the schedule lightens up a little bit, and they got some home games to boot. So
let me add one thing in there too. The Giants suspended Janoris Jenkins for this week.
Oh, that's beautiful.
It might have been indefinite, but he is definitely out this week. So that leaves DRC, Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie, as the only other decent cornerback. And don't forget, he was suspended indefinitely, which lasted a week or two.
Right.
By the Giants a couple weeks ago.
Well, I like Eli Apple.
They're already in flux.
I like Eli Apple a lot. That's, I think, one of the best corners to be drafted in a long time. I liked him at Ohio State, and I think he's going to be a damn good corner in this league, and I think he's already proven that he's pretty good. Plus, Landon Collins is a hell of a safety that can come over the top and play some double coverage on Sammy Watkins. So,
yeah, Collins is a beast.
Yeah.
I'll definitely give that. And Apple, yes, he's coming into his own. He's not elite status yet. Give him another year, so he'll be there. But with not having Jenkins out there, it's going to help the Rams.
Oh, for sure. It's at least going to open up Kupp and Robert Woods. There's no question.
Oh,
so.
Yeah, definitely.
I want to jump in here to the games now. First of all, Eric, you went 11-1 this week, which is, or was it 11-1? Hold on, where are you? You went 11-2. Sorry, you went 11-2.
Should have been 1.
Huh?
Should have been 11-1.
Why? Who did you screw up on?
Actually, should have been 12-1 because the only one that I said that I know I got wrong was the Baltimore-Miami game.
Baltimore-Miami. And Houston-Seattle. You picked Houston, didn't you?
Nope, I picked Seattle.
Oh, well,
you
then
picked Houston, I picked Seattle.
All right, well, then you're 12-1. Okay, so you were 12-1. All right. I, on the other hand, went 8-5, which I'll take. It's still a pretty good week. Could have done better. Wish I did do better, but that's neither here nor there. Now, Minnesota at Cleveland. We both picked Minnesota. Not a lot to really talk about here. The Browns stink, and the Vikings aren't very good, but they're definitely better than Cleveland. They, in my opinion, will probably win the North. I like what the Vikings... Look, I like Murray. I liked Murray in Oakland. I like Murray in Minnesota. I would like to see them just go, Murray, you're the guy. Take over for the year until we get our guy back next year. If the Vikings do that, they have a damn good chance of going 12-4, 11-5. If they don't, this is going to be a 10-6 football team, and they're barely going to win the NFC North.
I watched the whole game, okay, and I specifically kept my eyes on Cleveland because I knew Minnesota was going to end up winning, and the game was close at halftime. Minnesota took it to them in the second half. Cleveland lacks the playmakers. Okay, we already know that.
Yep.
Corey Coleman is going to be a welcome relief when he comes back from his broken hand. Crowell had a decent game. Duke was, catching passes out of the backfield, but he ended up getting injured. Had to go into concussion protocol. Kaiser didn't turn the ball over. I was specifically focusing on Kaiser. He was making some decent throws.
Yeah.
Okay, but the receivers just are top quality caliber for them to catch the ball. I mean, the guy that he threw the most to was David Njoku, their tight end. Everybody else, I mean, they easily be covered one-on-one.
So let me ask you a question.
Did a good job just covering Cleveland's pass catchers. And the only thing that they couldn't do on defense was stop Jared McKinnon with the screen pass. I mean, they let up a lot of yards on screen pass.
Oh, yeah.
Like running backs, McKinnon specifically. He had 72 yards receiving. They were mainly on screen passes.
Let me ask you a question. Do the Cleveland Browns instantly get upgraded at wide receiver in Week 12?
No. And what Anthony's talking about is that Josh Gordon has been reinstated. Here's what I would do from Cleveland. You got to get Josh Gordon's head right, okay? Have him come to the facility, work out, practice, maybe get him in game shape for Week 16, 17. Because he's been in rehab ever since he petitioned the league to come back in, and then he's like, well, I'm going back into rehab. So they're like, okay, well, get yourself better, talk to us when you're done. This isn't 2012 when he first on the scene, and he was, the best wide receiver for 5 straight weeks. He's got a lot of conditioning to do. I don't know what his workout regimen is, but I think when Coleman comes back, that's going to definitely be an upgrade. But I think that if Gordon suits up this season, he'll be considered lucky. I don't think he suits up with the team until 2018, and it won't be with the Browns.
Interesting. Well, either way, that was a bad game. Oakland at Buffalo. The Raiders are done. Buffalo's legit. The Bills are going to be competing with the Patriots all year long for that division. 2 teams are coming out of the AFC East. 1 team's coming out of the NFC West. The Raiders are done. And they looked... I recorded that game because I'm going to add it to my DVD collection, and I watched that game. They looked horrible all the way around. They couldn't protect Carr. They dropped passes. Receivers couldn't get open. It was ugly. And I'm sitting there going, is it ugly because Buffalo's playing this well on defense, or is this just how bad the Raiders' offense is? And I realized about the third quarter it was a combination of both. Don't sleep on Buffalo. But if you're a Raider fan, you better start watching a different sport because your season is done. And real quick, the Raiders' problem continues to be defense. They can't stop anyone, and their offense isn't good enough to outscore people. They're not right now. So it's a bad look for Oakland, and that was a big win for Buffalo at home and a good win for Buffalo at home.
What I want to add is that to all the listeners there, I wish that the last week's recording worked. Okay? Anthony did a quick like half-hour recording. I wasn't on there. But we did a recording prior to that. And I said, well, Sean McCoy's going to have another big game.
Yeah.
Because I knew about Oakland's defense. Yeah, 151 more yards for LeSean McCoy.
Yeah.
That offense is starting to roll. And with them getting Benjamin, they play on a short week, and we're going to get to that game here a little bit. So I don't know if Benjamin will sit up for that game or not. And they can win the game without him, in my opinion. So if they hold him out for a week until they play, I think you're going to see a whole other dynamic to that Buffalo offense. And you're going to see a lot more McCoy with open holes. And he already had that against Oakland. And I hammered that point down when I previewed the game. I was like, McCoy's going to have a big game. McCoy's going to have a big game. And, yeah, that Oakland defense, like you said, it's not up to par. Their best players coming back, but you could run on the other side of where he's at.
Yeah. Yeah. Not much to say about that. Colts at Bengals was a really good game. It was really entertaining. Andy Dalton looked good. Brissett looked good. Some good running lanes in there for Cincinnati's backs. The wide receivers played well. Tight ends played well. And Doyle for the Colts. Doyle was a beast. He had 12 catches for over 100 yards receiving. That guy is becoming a weapon on a team that doesn't have very many weapons. I'm kind of glad to see that. Just an entertaining game. And this is what bothers me so much, Eric, about the league is, okay, I know the Colts aren't a good team. I know the Bengals aren't a good team this year. But that's a fun, honest to God, that was the best game this weekend to watch. And yes, I'm including Houston and Seattle. Because there was a little bit more defense involved, and there was some really big plays on offense. And it came down to 1 point, and the game was never a blowout. It was always in doubt. And I just wish the league would honor its 32 teams and give homage to good games and acknowledge good matchups, and this was a really good matchup. Andy Dalton played well, like I said. Doyle stood out to me as a guy that really needs to get more publicity. I don't care that he's on the Colts and the Colts aren't good. Talk about this guy because he's a good weapon and he's a fun tight end to watch. But I don't know what else to say about this game except, guys, if you get a chance at Week 9 and you're going to watch in Week 9 this week, don't just get stuck on the best matchups, quote unquote, or the winning teams playing each other. If you get a chance to watch a couple of quote unquote bad teams who have a pretty good matchup going, go watch it. It's worth it. I'm kind of mad I didn't record this one because I really did enjoy this game a lot. Did you get a chance to see any of it, Eric?
I was watching the game cast, actually. I didn't see much, but I was actually scratching my head like, okay, Cincinnati, come on, where's your offense? You're trailing the majority of the game. And it was catch, Jack Doyle, catch, Jack Doyle, catch, Jack Doyle, touchdown, Jack Doyle, 121 yards. And the guy was just an animal out there.
Yeah.
And, Frank Gore had a game, 82 yards rushing. And I was like, okay, when are you going to hit Green? When are you going to hit Croc? When are you going to hit LaFell? When are you going to, we've seen, Jacksonville light you up. We've seen other teams letting you up. Why aren't you letting them up? Okay? And, I don't know if it was because of the weather, but Brissett played decently to keep Indianapolis in the game. We might see a little changing in the guard in Indianapolis, too. Frank Gore, there were a couple of phone calls to the trade deadline for Frank Gore. Don't be surprised if you see Marlon Mack get some more carries and start phasing Gore out. Gore's 34 years old.
Yeah.
I know Gore suffered a horrific injury in college. Horrific.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? But he has been one heck of a running back in the National Football League. It's been a while since he's had a 100-yard game. I don't think he's going to get there the rest of the season. But, let the man go out on his own terms.
Yeah.
But, I was actually waiting for Indianapolis to take the lead and hold it and win a game in Cincinnati, but they didn't. And the Bengals were able to pull it off at the end.
Yeah, it was a fun game. It really was. Chargers at New England. So I'll let you say what you call them. I'm going to call them the Calixico Chargers, or Calico Chargers. At New England was a pretty good game. It was a really good game. 21-13, I believe, was the final score. some field goals, some touchdowns, some good plays, good defense. Really good defense was played in this game. The Patriots, I heard people go, oh, looks like the Patriots are starting to turn the corner. I think we're starting to see the vulnerability of the San Diego Chargers. Gordon isn't going to scare you at running back, and Phillip Rivers is getting old, and they're running out of weapons. Now, they may get better, and they are going to have games where they put up a lot of numbers. I'm not sold on New England's defense being fixed more than I'm sold on the fact that the Chargers just don't have – they're not as good as everyone thinks they are. I know they had a stretch there where they were winning some games, but look at their scores. Have they wowed anybody offensively all year long? No. New England got a break. They got a bad team at home in cold weather, inclement weather. It was raining. That's a benefit to you when you're playing against a guy from Southern California who can't throw a wet ball as well as he can throw a dry ball. And Tom Brady's Tom Brady, and the Patriots are the Patriots, and you got to give credit where credit's due. I told you in the show, and I'm mad that this didn't happen, okay? I said that the Patriots are going to neutralize Bosa because that's what Belichick does. He neutralizes the best player on the other team, and every time he talks a guy up, they neutralize that player. And he was talking Bosa up like a lunatic this week, and Bosa really didn't show up on the stat sheet except for a couple of hurries. I think he had a couple tackles too, but he didn't change the game or have that game-changing play like Bosa's capable of doing. I think the Chargers are an easy fix, but it's a timely fix. The Chargers are in a bad position because they want to get good right away because of where they're at. But they can't get good right away. And if they were patient, they could be a really good football team. But they can't be patient because they're in a town that isn't patient, and there's already another team in that town that is taking it by storm and was the team the city wanted anyway. So the Chargers are really up against a corner, and I'm telling you, they're going to Oakland. Or back to San Diego, which would be hilarious, but they're not going to stay where they are because there just is no avenue for them there. What did you take away from the game?
You know, the Chargers, they played good enough to win.
Yeah.
They just couldn't finish it off. And I felt like we've been saying that about the Chargers a lot this year.
Exactly.
Gordon had a big 87-yard run early in the game.
Huge.
Kind of gave the Chargers a lead early on.
Okay, stop. Time out. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I know it's hard to hear me sometimes, so I have to keep talking until you can hear me. Did you watch the 87-yard run?
Yes.
Did he look slow on that run or what?
Toward the end.
Oh my God. I was like, even from, like, he had that burst and then he was done. And I'm like, I thought this guy was fast. Anyway, I want to comment on that because I was like, holy crap, this guy's not very fast at all compared to everybody else on the field because he got caught. But he just looks slow. But anyway, I digress. Go.
Yeah, the last thing I want to add to this game is that I'm going to give you a stat between the two teams, and that is Phillip Rivers, only 7 all-time versus New England, including the playoffs.
Yeah. That's crazy, but it's true. It's true. All right, Eric. The Bears and the Saints, take it away.
All right, well, on the show that didn't get uploaded, I said that the Bears were in for a long game, okay, because I fully expected blowout city down in Louisiana. Well, Breeze threw for 299 yards. It's the first game since 2009 in which a Drew Brees team won without him throwing a touchdown pass. It was the Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara show. Brees was just there to hold the ball and not turn it over. Ingram did enough to turn it over for them.
Yeah.
He had 2 fumbles, which, he's lucky that they didn't turn into 2 touchdowns. The Bears had a horrific injury on offense.
Yeah.
Zach Miller went up for a touchdown catch. I still don't know how this wasn't a touchdown catch. He came down, basically dislocated his knee so severely that he had surgery that night just to save his leg, which his prognosis is good. The leg is doing much better. Heartbeat, or whatever you want to call it, and then his leg at last check was also warm, so they had to repair some nerve damage. But I'll tell you this much: Trubisky looked ready for the big game. Now, he did throw an interception toward the end of the game, but he had to take a chance, and he tried to throw it to the only guy who was semi-open. And it ended up where Wright ran the wrong route, and he went in, the ball went out, and it was picked off. So, Howard had 102 yards. I knew they would be able to run on New Orleans defense. New Orleans defense came up big when they needed to. So New Orleans is now 6-2, and they can win those closely tight games.
They can.
The Bears earlier in the week traded for Chargers wide receiver Dontrell Inman. He didn't suit up, but definitely expect to see him after the bye week, which is this week for the Bears. I don't know if I want to get to it now or if I want to get to it when we talk about the Texans and Seahawks, and I might wait for it there. But as I keep mentioning about Trubisky and Watson, I'm going to keep mentioning it quite a few times. But when we get to the Seahawks and Texans, I'll probably bring it up then because there's a point I want to make. But I give the Bears a lot of credit going on the road in a tough environment, playing their hearts out. I mean, they played tough. Coaching staff, coaching decisions got in the way a little bit. The offense went out. Did it as much as they could, just to not get down big against the Saints. You know that they can score in a hurry down there in their own home dome. So Bears lose by 8, but it was a lot closer game than if you would have watched it. A lot closer game than you would score with it.
And who said that if the Bears ran the ball, that it was going to be a close game?
Maybe you?
Maybe me? Yeah, I think it was me. And did you do your homework?
No, I still haven't done my homework.
Dude, you're grounded. I'm done with you. That's it. You're getting a beating and no dinner. Stop it. What do you mean? Okay, for the Bears bye week, I will allow for a Bears segment only if you do your homework. I want you to go back and look at the Rams' stats in 83, 84, and 85. Okay, I'm telling you, you're going to be blown away at what you see, and I want you to report on it. All right. Now, Atlanta, New York Jets, take it away.
Atlanta had been bold for the AFC East coming into this game. Atlanta wins by 5. Jets played a really good game. McCown is really playing some good football for the Jets. He had another good game, over 250 yards passing. He hit Robbie Anderson with a nice touchdown pass. He had over 100 yards receiving. The only thing that the Jets are really missing is a really good running back. And I know that the Jets are just trying to get through the season and do the best they can, and they are. Okay? But they're still in a lot of games. They just need a couple more playmakers. And I think they're not as far away as you think they might be. Yeah, changing a quarterback will probably set them back a little bit at the beginning, but not much at the end.
Mm-hmm.
But the Falcons are lucky to escape with a victory here. And I say that because the Falcons just don't look right. And I don't think that they're going to make noise in the playoffs as they get back there.
Oh, no.
I don't really foresee them as a wild card right now.
Well, we'll see.
But the Falcons got to win. That's all that matters for them.
But let me remind.
Crap weather and getting the W.
And let me remind you, this is a football team last year that was like just barely above 500 by week 9 anyway. So, and then they got off to that really hot start. So, I'm not saying it's going to happen 2 years in a row, but we'll see what they do in the second half of the season. As you say, that's why they play the games. San Francisco at Philly, not a lot to report here. Beathard looked like garbage. The Eagles looked phenomenal. Carson Wentz did what he should have done against a bad football team. San Francisco didn't play well at all. They hung in there for a while. It was 3-0. But you never the 49ers offense never gave you reason to believe they were going to do anything but lose that game and lose that game big. I'm actually surprised they did score a touchdown at one point. But Philly's just right now they're a juggernaut. And that December game against the Rams is looking to be like it's going to be the game of the year, and potentially an NFC Championship game matchup. And I think the winner of that game will have home field advantage if this continues in Philly, which there's no reason to believe it won't. You're beating teams you're supposed to beat by big points, and you're winning games against teams you're evenly matched up with by a significant amount, and you're barely losing to teams you're not supposed to lose to. That's the recipe of a good football team, and I'm going to continue to say it. Wentz and Goff are going to go down as the best 1-2 draft picks in NFL history. And I cannot wait to see these guys take off. Once again, San Francisco's defense played tough, but there's just too many things that they had to plug up and stop, and they couldn't. And when you have a quarterback that's that talented, think about that draft with Wentz and Goff. Because I don't want to ignore what Dak Prescott's done in Dallas either. This was an impressive draft. And I got to give Philly credit where credit's due because they absolutely dominated this game. I've got nothing left to say except Philly won a game that they were supposed to, and San Francisco played tough in the first quarter, but then that was pretty much it. And also in inclement weather, mind you.
One thing to add on this that we completely forgot in the first segment, Philly traded for a running back.
Oh, God!
Right?
How did we miss that?
A fourth-round pick to Miami for Jay Ajayi.
I don't understand that move by Miami, but man, did Philadelphia just make themselves the favorite.
Yeah, I've been hearing a lot out of Miami that, do you remember last year where Adam Gase didn't even let Jay Ajayi travel with the team in the first game of the season?
Yeah.
A lot of that stems from problems from back then, too. Ajayi was always looking for the home run, and Gase was like, hey, just hit the hole, get the first down. Last year, he had 6 runs of 25 yards or more. This year, none.
Yeah.
And I think that Gase was just fed up with Ajayi. He shipped it off for a 4th rounder. He's going to go to Philadelphia. He's going to be part of a semi-three-headed monster. I say semi because Wendell Smallwood hasn't really broken out like they had hoped. So Ajayi between the 20, like you mentioned to me earlier today, and with Derek Woods from 5 yards in.
Yeah, he's going to be a touchdown maker, man.
Right, and the thing is too is that Ajayi was a really good blocker on passing downs, especially in blind track. So Philadelphia just got more pass protection.
Yeah.
Because their offensive line hasn't been holding up lately, and if there's going to be any downfall for Philly, it's going to be their offensive line.
Yeah.
And Ajayi has just come on for another level, for another defender to try to get past him to get to Wentz. And Wentz is very mobile, so he'll be able to sense it and see it and get out of it. I thought it was a big pickup for Philadelphia.
Oh, huge.
And for Miami, now they're relying on Kenyon Drake, Damian Williams, and others back there now. And, he's back, he's starting after his injury, and it's going to be a long second half.
Well, let me just say 2 things here. First of all, I think Philadelphia is now the instant favorite. Number 2, watch out for Kenyon Drake. I loved him in Alabama, and I think now that he has an opportunity, he is a guy that will hit the hole and create a home run play. So I'm just telling you right now, look out for him. I think he could easily be a 700-yard rusher this year, maybe a 600-yard rusher because there's so little time left. But he's going to be a 1,000-yard rusher in the future. I genuinely believe that. I liked him at Alabama, but we'll see. Carolina, Tampa Bay, take that one away.
Really not much to report on this game. Tampa Bay was awful. Another game factored with the weather. Not the best ideal conditions for Winston to throw, especially with the sprained AC joint in his right shoulder. Carolina did everything they could to eke out a win. They could have won this game 6-3. They ended up putting up 17 points and won 17-3.
Yeah.
They basically did what the Bears did to Carolina. They used their defense. They pressured Winston. They didn't allow them to get past a certain point of the defense to where they would allow the big play. So they kept everything in front of them. Carolina came out. They scored enough points to basically, seal this game. And, Benjamin scored in the fourth quarter to really ice the game away. Stewart got a 1-yard touchdown run in the first quarter, which I was surprised that it was Stewart and not Cam Newton, because I don't know how much Stewart likes to hug the ball there. But, yeah, it was just one of those sloppy games. Carolina came out with a victory, and that's all she wrote.
We learned one other thing. I'm 500 on my upset picks. They're not very good.
Oh, yeah.
So my upset picks are doing crap.
Are you hopping off that tip of bandwagon finally? I mean, they're picking up for like the last 6 weeks.
No, I have not. It's the first time I picked them all year. Dork. Houston at Seattle. I'm going to put something up here, guys. You ready? Okay. This first one that I'm putting up. This is what you call I'm looking at this one here, right here. This is what you call your standard cover 3. Okay? This is what the Houston Texans should have run with less than a minute to play in the game. All right? You protect the boundaries, you make them throw over the middle, and you make the tackle, and you have a free roaming safety that you can either blitz. He's right here. Free roaming safety that you can either blitz, or go into coverage. That was terrible. Can't see what I'm doing with the drawing. The second one that I wanted to show you is the most important one. This is a nickel defense where you can still blitz 2 linebackers sending 5 at a very bad offensive line and still drop 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 into coverage. Also would have been a good idea to run with under a minute to go. I don't know how Seattle won that game, except for the fact that the Houston Texans defensive coordinator, Vrabel, is garbage. He's garbage. Those are basic defensive formations that have been run in this league since the 1950s. You couldn't pick either one of those to run? He went man coverage. Man coverage. Are you kidding me? Man coverage with less than a minute to play, and that team had no timeouts left. You're giving them the chunk play. You can call this a good game, and it was entertaining, but my God, the coaching was horrible. And as a coach, I'm watching this game, and I'm losing my chocolates by the second as that game is unfolding, because I'm like, well, that was a terrible defensive call. That was a terrible offensive call. That was a terrible defensive call. That was a terrible defensive call. What are they doing in the last minute of the game? I literally turned off the game because I had to go out to dinner, and I saw that the Seahawks were getting the ball with less than a minute to play, and I'm like, well, they didn't win. They got no timeouts left. How in the world do you call that defense? Seriously, fire Vrabel, okay? He was a great linebacker. Does not make you a good coach. Go out and get a guy that's never played the game before, but has coached the game and knows the game. Because my word, that was the worst exhibition of coaching I've ever seen in my life. And he would not have gotten on the plane ride back home with me if I was the Houston Texans head coach. He would have been F-I-R-E-D, fired. Because I can get a blind monkey to call a better game at the end. Lost my mind. Not because I picked Houston. Obviously, I wanted Houston to win being a Ram fan. But what in the hell is going on in Houston when you call that? No wonder you lose the game. And you blew a Watson gem in Seattle. I'm going to give myself a coronary. I digress. Awful defensive play calling. Houston deserved to lose this game, and there's only one man to blame. Vrabel, the defensive coordinator. Eric, you may proceed.
What I wanted to find out was how Seattle scored again, because I had I turned away. The game was already over because I was watching the Dallas and Washington game. I was actually flipping back and forth. I saw a lot of the Texans Seahawks game. And so I went to my iPad and I looked. I was like, holy crap! The Seahawks won 41-38. So when I finally saw the highlight of the last touchdown with 21 seconds to go, I want you guys to think of the Pentagon. Because there were 5 guys lined up exactly like in a Pentagon formation with about the size of the Pentagon in D.C. And Jimmy Graham was right there in the middle saying, hey, I'm wide open, throw me the ball, I'm going to walk straight in. And I'm like, how do you not cover Jimmy Graham? Of all the guys, he already had 1 touchdown catch on the day. How did you not cover him? And the Texans were so quick on scoring earlier, their 1 possession earlier. Man, run the ball. You can run on Seattle's defense. It's not as formidable as it was 3-4 years ago.
No.
Run the ball with Miller. Okay? Bill O'Brien needs to learn how to use the clock to his advantage. Now, this game was a heavyweight fight. Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Okay? And Will Fuller had 2 touchdowns. DeAndre Hopkins had 224 yards receiving. And I wanted to bring up this point. As I've hammered in the past, that Deshaun Watson was the best quarterback in the draft. And I said, the Bears should take him. Okay? I want you to think about this. Do you think Trubisky would be able to put up the same numbers that Watson's putting up in that offense right now?
No, I do not.
Do you think Watson would be able to put up his current numbers in the Bears offense right now?
No, I do not.
Okay. Deshaun Watson landed in one of the most perfect places he could have landed. And now you're hearing, Bears traded up 1 spot to grab Trubisky when Deshaun Watson was there. Oh, the Jets took Jamal Adams when Deshaun Watson was there. You guys go back to before the draft, okay? If you want to go back to a previous LA Rams Central, and I hammered home the point that Deshaun Watson was the best quarterback coming out of this draft.
Mm-hmm.
And I've said that numerous times, Anthony, and you can back me up.
Absolutely you did. Absolutely.
Houston has something special, okay? I mean, we're starting to hear less and less about the 13 collegiate starts for Trubisky, okay? A lot less because he's playing decently right now for a Bears team with no offensive weapons outside of running back. And Watson played on the national stage. He played in the big game. He led game-winning drives. I know, Anthony, you don't want to hear that, but obviously anybody can go back to the national championship and see it.
And he played an NFL caliber defense.
Exactly. He played the toughest defense basically in college football.
And tore him up.
And he's been playing a great game. I mean, it's going to be a 1-2 punch for Rookie of the Year between Kareem Hunt and Deshaun Watson.
Yeah.
Richard Sherman after the game told Peter King, he's like, Deshaun Watson played one of the best games against our defense in the last 5 years. You know how many times they faced Brady and they faced Rodgers in that span?
Yeah.
8 times. 8 times. 8.
Yeah.
But that's a pretty high praise for a rookie. He basically is like, hey, just give him Rookie of the Year right now. I'll let it play out, but I think it's a 2-headed race right now.
Yeah, I do too. Kareem Hunt's still my pick, but not by much if this continues.
But Houston's been in a lot of games except their first game when they got blown out by Jacksonville. But if this team finds a way to win those close games, they're going to be really tough out in the playoffs if they're able to get there this year.
Yeah, I agree. Dallas at Washington. The Redskins, this is a football team. Their MO is, get blown out, come roaring back, make it close with an onside kick that you don't recover, and then lose the game by 10 anyway. Like, I'm frustrated with the Redskins because they're better than they're playing, but I also understand why they're playing the way they're playing. Because they don't have any bodies left. Their football team represents a mash unit, not a football program. I think the Redskins, if healthy, are one of the best teams in the NFC, if not top 3. And better than Philly. And yes, I said it. But because of all the injuries, a lot of their depth is now forced to play, and there is no depth behind the depth. Washington's not making the playoffs this year. They just don't have the bodies to do it, and they don't have the schedule to do it. And now they're 0-3 in the division with 2 losses at home to division opponents. Dallas looked good. Dallas won a game they were supposed to win. I'm still not sold on the Dallas Cowboys. But I still think the Dallas Cowboys will probably make the playoffs. I think right now, Philly, Dallas, Rams, Seattle are going to be the 2 divisions that have the wild card team coming out of it. The East and the West, with the Rams and the Cowboys probably being the wild card teams. But, there isn't a lot to say about this game. Kirk Cousins played inconsistent. Terrell Pryor still nowhere to be found. By now, we should be seeing improvement, and we're not. Josh Doxson continues to drop balls. There is no running game to speak of. I'm sorry, but Kelly is not your answer in Washington. You need to find a running back, and if it's not P. Ryan, then they better find somebody. And defensively, they're just in shambles, as well as on the offensive line. This is a football team that will probably finish 7-9, 8-8 if they're lucky. But playoffs are not abound for the Washington Redskins. And Dallas will reap the benefits of another matchup against this team, I believe, the week after Thanksgiving, if I remember correctly. Anything that you want to add to that game?
Yeah. Elliott had 150 yards receiving. He ran like a man possessed. Do you still think that with Dallas with the 6-game suspension moving for Elliott, that looks like it's going to go into effect this week?
Yeah, I do, because I don't think the NFC is a strong conference. I think your 3 best teams in the NFC are Philly, Los Angeles, and Seattle. And I think everybody else in that conference is beyond beatable, and that includes New Orleans. I don't think Carolina is going to be there in the end. I think New Orleans is probably going to be an 11-5, 10-6 team in the end. And I think Dallas is good enough with Dak Prescott, that defense, and those wide receivers, and Witten still at tight end. And I think they can get enough out of the running game. I'm a big fan of Morris. I've been a big fan of Morris since he was a Redskin. So, don't sleep on that guy, because he is not Darren McFadden. He's something better, and he's a beast. And that offensive line will win him a lot of football games. So, yeah. Do I think Dallas is going to go far in the playoffs? No. If they're anything, it's going to be like your statement with Atlanta. They're going to kind of be in and be done because, depending when the suspension comes down, Elliott may be missing a playoff game. I don't know. But Pittsburgh, Detroit, I'm going to say one thing and then I'll let you take it away. This is the weakest 5-2, 6-2, whatever the record is, football team that I've seen in a long, long time. They remind me so much of the New York Giants in 1989. The New York Giants, I think, were 12-4 or 11-5, something like that. I think they were 12-4 when they won the division. But they were such a weak 12-4 football team that you kind of knew they weren't going to go far in the postseason, and they didn't. They lost to the Rams in the divisional round after the Rams had won the wild card game against Philly, who I thought was a better team despite their record not being better. I'm not impressed with Pittsburgh. They're going to benefit from, once again, as I said in the beginning of the year, the 28th hardest schedule in football. They're in the top 5 for the easiest schedule yet again for the 12th year in a row. And I know you keep going back to the division, but it's out of division games that I look at. And Detroit is Detroit. I digress. Go.
Detroit is Detroit. Listen, you gotta give it up for Pittsburgh's red zone defense. They allowed nothing, 5 field goals, and Detroit went for it on 4th down at the 2 or 3 yard line. They could have kicked a field goal that could have brought it to 2018. Well, guess what? Detroit also had the ball late in the 4th quarter.
Right.
They kicked the ball. It could have been 21-20 Lions if not for them going for it on 4th down.
Like I said, Eric, Detroit is Detroit.
Well, they are. And this is a game that they could have easily won, just as this game could have easily been a blowout in favor of Pittsburgh. Listen, what can you say? Stafford kept the team in the game. Roethlisberger decided to throw to Juju Smith-Schuster. He had 193 yards receiving, and that was after Pittsburgh said, "Hey, Martavis Bryant, guess what? A, you're not being traded, and B, you're being made inactive for this game." So not only did that let him use under the rookie, but yeah, I mean, we all know how Pittsburgh is away from home. If this game was played at Pittsburgh, they would have blown out Detroit, in my opinion. But that is so average on the road, it's ridiculous. Detroit also had a breakdown in defense, allowed a 97-yard touchdown pass to Smith-Schuster. So, you take 97 yards away, he's at 96 total yards receiving. Or 97 yards away, he's at 96 total yards receiving.
Mm-hmm.
So, one big play can always skew the stats in the box score. But, the Lions need to find a way to score touchdowns because you're not going to win a game on all field goals many times in this league.
Nope.
It's a game of points, and, you need those points in the red zone especially to beat tough teams. And Pittsburgh played tough on the road. They wanted to come in and, last time they played in Detroit, they won the Super Bowl for crying out loud. So,
yeah. I know. Well, it is what it is. I mean,
yeah.
Kansas City.
Not really, like you said, not much to say about the game except that, Detroit's inability to score touchdowns pretty much cost them the game.
Actually, no, Eric. Their inability to kick field goals when they should kick field goals is what cost them the game. They would have won the game if they just kicked the field goal instead of go for a touchdown. Because here's the problem. So many people have this mentality of, well, we've already kicked 5 field goals. We can't kick another one. Why not? You make it a 2-score game and your defense is playing great. What's the problem? Points are points. You're not supposed to chase points in the second half. You're supposed to get as many points in the first half as you can and then chase them in the second half if you have to. But if it's a 2-score game and that's 2 scores are 2 field goals or 1 touchdown, you take them where you get them. I'm sorry. I'll kick 19 field goals in a game if I have to. Those are points. And it works. It's annoying, but it's true. Anyway, moving on. Denver at Kansas City. Brock Osweiler starting next week. Denver will start a winning streak in the next 3 weeks. I don't care what anyone says. Brock Osweiler is a decent quarterback and has the potential to be a good quarterback with the right system and with the right protection. Now, Denver's going to have to run the ball better for that to happen, but there is no question that Trevor Siemian and Paxton Lynch are not the answer. Paxton Lynch can't beat out Trevor Siemian, and Trevor Siemian can't beat anybody. Kansas City looked great. They beat a team they were supposed to beat. I'll give Denver credit. They played better than I think a lot of people expected, and had it not been for drop balls and stupid plays, Denver might have won this game, but Kansas City played well, played through 4 quarters, and got it done. Denver's got to fix the quarterback situation, and I will find it ironic and hilarious if Brock Osweiler is the answer when they could have paid him the money a long time ago and gotten it taken care of. Now, I know what you're going to say, Eric. Brock Osweiler isn't the answer. Well, you know what? Jared Goff is a bust after 7 games. I'm not going to sell the guy out over the course of a season and a half, if even that. Let's see what he does back in Kubiak's system with players he's familiar with, weapons he can throw to, and that lethal defense. Kansas City, I want to give credit here. The Chiefs got off the schneid. I told you they were going to play mad. I told you they're going to play angry. I had 34-13. You had 27-17. Eric damn near called that game. You called the point spread, 10 points. 29-19 was the final. I really liked what I saw from Kansas City, but I also think there's potential there for Denver to get back on track. It's going to be too late. They'll miss the playoffs, but they might be 500 at the end of the year. Go ahead.
Well, I'm sitting over here, for those who can't see me, I'm shaking my head no for everything you said about Brock Osweiler.
Here we go.
I think we know who he is after all this time that we've seen him with Denver and Houston. I think you're going to see them go back to Simeon a lot quicker than you anticipate. Yeah, Osweiler knows the offense. Oh, actually, he does, because Vance Joseph's the new head coach there.
That's true.
So he's still learning a new offense, but he's got the same receivers and whatnot with Sanders and Thomas. I think see a lot of the same. A lot of overthrown balls, a lot of holding on to the ball too long type stuff. Kansas City played a great game. Just as Houston in that game was all over the place. And he lived in Denver's backfield. Simeon was thrown off his back foot because Houston could have been in the end zone waiting for the pass for Simeon. And Simeon was still thrown off his back foot because Houston might have got there before the ball was released. That's how crazy that defense was for Kansas City. They played a great game. Alex Smith played a great game. They played a great game as a whole unit, all three phases for them. Couple of miscues and turnovers here and there, but stuff like that happens. I like the way Kansas City came out. I like the way they announced their presence with authority in that game. We're not going to get punched in the mouth by Denver. We're going to get punching in the mouth, and they did. And Simeon just did not look comfortable, and so after about 2 or 3 bad games in a row, after he got up to a great start the first 2 weeks of the season. But it's what have you done lately instead of, hey, look what you did, we're going to give you the benefit of the doubt. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
So, Denver's moving from here. Is Brock the answer? We'll find out, but it's not like they got the best test in the world to find that out this week. They're in Philadelphia. So, I know it's going to be one game that's going to probably look awful on him, but obviously they're going to give him a little bit more time and the benefit of the doubt on this. So, we can always see where it goes from here.
Well, that's going to be my upset pick of the week. Not because I'm picking Denver, because I'm not. I'm picking Philly. But I think that game's going to be close, and I won't be surprised if it goes in overtime. I think Denver's defense can play well enough against Wentz to contain him, and I think Brock Osweiler may surprise some people. But it's going to come down to whether Denver can run the ball or not. But we'll get to that next on our next show that we record on Saturday. Or maybe even Sunday morning. Buffalo at the Jets. We're going to wrap up with this. For me, it's a no-brainer. I'm picking Buffalo. I think the Jets are good, but I think we're going to start to see I think the Jets are going to start to unravel now. Buffalo can run the ball. The addition of Benjamin, who we won't see this week, isn't going to hurt them. They've already beaten the Jets once this year. It's in New York, but it's not a far trip for the Bills. I just think the Bills are going to beat the Jets, and I think it's going to be a 10, 14-point game.
I think this is going to be a lot closer game than you expect, only because it's at the Jets. And the funny thing is that after the game against the Falcons, Todd Bowles, head coach of the Jets, was asked, are you going to start playing the kids? Specifically, Christian Hackenberg. Now, before I get to his answer, something you guys should know, if you didn't know already. But in order for the Jets to sign Josh McCown this year, they gave him basically a highly heavy incentive-laden contract deal. And a lot of it was starts per game, or starts during the season. Daily, weekly starts, okay? And terms of that were never disclosed that I have heard, but he gets X amount of money for however many starts he has, and he's been relatively healthy and he started every game. So Todd Bowles said, "No, we've seen everything we saw in the summer," meaning they've known about Christian Hackenberg for a year or two now, and they won't start him, which now they know. Hey, we're going after a quarterback in the draft. Doesn't matter where we finish. We're going after a quarterback in the draft. I don't think they're going to make the same mistake they did last year. But that remains to be seen. So with that being said, I still expect the Jets to come out, play their hearts out. But I think it's too much Bills in this game. I think you're going to see the Bills establish the run game early. So you're going to see a lot of LaShawn McCoy. If they get in within the 5, you're going to see Mike Tolbert trying to barrel through. And, Jordan Matthews is back, so I expect to see him utilized a little bit more. They might be a week away from getting Charles Bay back, but, they were able to run and pass on Oakland. They'll be able to run and pass on the Jets. Jeremy Curley has been suspended. He's a wide receiver for the Jets. He's been suspended, so that takes a semi-weapon out of the Jets' special teams. So now they really have Severian Jenkins, Eric Tomlinson, Robbie Anderson, and Jermaine Kearse as guys to catch the ball. Plus, they also have the three running backs on the backfield, McGuire, Forte, and Powell. So expect a heavy dose of Powell in this game, especially early on. If the Jets are forced to play catch-up, travel about 2 scores down, you're going to see a lot of McCown throwing the ball. And if that happens, I think you're going to see a couple of turnovers by McCown in the second half. Buffalo wins this game. I don't think there's a way that – I don't think they were looking ahead on Sunday past Oakland to the Jets. But they know that they need to bring their defense to this game because they don't want to keep the Jets in this game through the fourth quarter.
True that. True that. All right, well, that's a wrap. I'm Anthony.
I'm Eric.
And this is LA Rams Central. Hope you guys enjoyed it. And remember, go Rams!